Hello and welcome to Abe's fourth episode of Abe's Complete Star Trek Commentary. Today we'll be talking about the original series episode Charlie X. First of all, I want to apologise if I am doing these slightly out of order. I've been using it based on the labels of the episodes that I've got on my computer as opposed to the list that I'm finding on Netflix and my app tracker, my episode tracker. So, apologies there for anyone who has complaints, but still. And I want to, thank those that, have listened to my earlier episodes. I, appreciate that there are some people out there starting to take an interest in this podcast of mine. Now, this episode is one that I haven't watched much, so I look forward to kind of rewatching it with with you guys, without just as an FYI to kind of as a reminder, I am available to be contacted on my email, which is warrior346@yahoo.com, and can also be contacted on Twitter at warrior346. And now that my podcast is available in the Apple Podcast Store, I'm also happy for any reviews to be placed there. We'll take that. Any feedback that gets left in stride. I look forward to some constructive commentary there. So without further ado, let's start watching Charlie X. So the episode begins with the Enterprise, taking on a new passenger, a young man by the name of Charlie. You can tell that there's some tension between Charlie and his original hosts, the commander of the ship Antares. Can't quite tell what's going on, but you can tell that it's an obvious sense of fear or trepidation in relation to Charlie for some reason. I do remember the first time that I watched this, I think he had some kind of psychic or telekinetic abilities, but we'll see as the episode progresses what those abilities are and why this trepidation exists. So, very early on, we find out that Charlie has been alone for 14 years. He's now 17 years old. And has essentially just had, he was a sole survivor of a crashed transport ship of some kind. And, the doctor is running some, tests on him, making sure he's, healthy and well cared for and whatnot. And finds out that everything that Charlie knows and he learned from the ship's computer tapes and that, he managed to find food on the, planet he was marooned on. Which is, all very surprising for such a young man. Being his first encounter with, other people of his kind, it's also his first encounter with a female, which of Yeoman Rand, which it's going to be interesting to see how if Charlie has any kind of reaction, to her. At all as a potential love interest, and what Rand's kind of reaction is to him on that score as well. So the next little bit of the episode is where Charlie is exploring the ship and starting to get familiar with some of the people on board, and he has his next encounter with Yeoman Rand. Gives her a present that looks to be some perfume or something, and after she agrees to meet him at the end of a duty shift, as he's walking away, he slaps her on the butt, which Rand correctly says to Charlie, look, you shouldn't really do that. She accepts the fact that or understands the fact that this is his kind of first time really around people. And so he kind of lets them off the hook on this occasion and, just tells them, have a chat to the captain or to Dr. McCoy so they can essentially give you the birds and the bees talk, because that's another thing as well. Kind of being alone on a deserted planet for all that time, he wouldn't have had anyone to really, talk to him or explain to him the social niceties and how relationships work, and how the things are meant to be between the sexes, and what is appropriate and inappropriate behaviours and whatnot. So someone does need to have that conversation with him. But there is also this intense need from him to have people like him. Again, it's a common thing among teenagers. I was very much there myself, trying to do things that may not necessarily have been 100% acceptable to to get people, all in the name of kind of popularity and making sure that people would like me. Didn't work so well, for me, I have to admit. And I've got a feeling that whatever Charlie's going to do to try and make people like him may not necessarily be of the most acceptable quality either. We'll see how how this episode progresses and what Charlie does next. So we're back on the bridge, and we see again the traditional uniform colours coming out here. Kirk, this is the first time we see Kirk in his green, I'll call it a half-dress uniform, because it's more formal than his normal yellow command gold, but not quite a full dress outfit. And Uhura is wearing her famous really short red her very famous short red skirt dress thing uniform, and they talk. Spock and McCoy are having a bit of a debate as to whether or not there are actually life forms of some form on Thasus, which is the planet where Charlie was found, and had apparently survived alone for all those years. I personally agree with Spock's argument that, given his young age, because he was landed there when he was 3, so he would have had to survive on his own from ages 3 to 4, at least, purely on ship stores and so on, and to be able to survive all the way to 17 without anyone there to help him. As a father of 3 children, I don't care what century you're grown up in, like hell. So yeah, I personally very much agree with Spock's argument that there's got to be life of some form on Thasus where where Charlie has been living and growing up. The second topic is that McCoy is saying that that he needs some kind of father figure to help teach him about relationships and the way the male body works. And he's trying to get Kirk to take the job, but Kirk is having none of it, which I find particularly amusing, considering that of the crew, as we go through the series, we'll find that Kirk gets more ladies than McCoy ever will. But I suppose he's a little too self-conscious to have that kind of a discussion with a growing and developing young man. And in the end, orders McCoy to take that job. So, again, personally, I think it was a bit of a mistake in that respect. I mean, we'll see how this plays out, but I do agree with McCoy that Kirk should have, taken that. Again, being the captain of the ship, and the father figure of sorts to the crew, and someone who Charlie should learn to look up to. I do feel that it is more Kirk's place than McCoy. I mean, McCoy can talk about the actual biologicals of it, but there's a lot more to it that that I think is more Kirk's area than it is McCoy's to talk about. So here we get our first taste of what Charlie's powers are. This next scene initially starts off in the rec room, and we get to hear Uhura, or Nichelle Nichols' rather beautiful voice, I have to admit. She really does have a a really nice singing voice. And Spock is playing on his Vulcan harp or Vulcan lute, and Uhura is coming up with a nice kind of creative improvised song, which I do quite enjoy. Initially, kind of making a bit of a mockery of Spock. Not too long after, or towards the end of that song, Charlie comes in. And so Uhura, after Uhura finishes her verses on Spock, she changes the target of her song to Charlie. Charlie doesn't seem to like this too much, and kind of uses his powers to make the lute not work, not make any noise, or Uhura be able to speak. And then he goes on to show Rand some very basic kind of card tricks, which include, turning a few royal cards into pictures of her, and just a couple of other basic ones, kind of sleight of hand, whatnot. But I think we're starting to get a taste, a very light, mild taste of what Charlie is going to be capable of later in the episode. And now we're seeing some more odd things happening. First of all, I find it very amusing that the captain, this wonderful person who's ladies' man to the stars, gets very tongue-tied when Charlie tries to talk to him about what happened between him and Rand. And kind of saved by the bell, the captain gets called to the bridge by a call from the Antares. He goes to the bridge to take the call, and the captain of the Antares is trying to warn Kirk about something, and before he can get any more than a sentence out, the ship, we find out that the ship blew up. Charlie seems to indicate some kind of foreknowledge of that event, and Kirk is becoming very, very suspicious of him at this point, because at the scene when Charlie walked up to him to talk about him and Janice, Kirk was talking about Thanksgiving and how he would prefer the meatloaf, to look like turkeys because it's Thanksgiving, and the head chef says that there's real turkeys in the ovens now, and so Kirk is really becoming suspicious in terms of what Charlie is actually capable of, and because there's very little control being shown here. Okay, so next we see the Captain Kirk and Spock enjoying a friendly game of chess, and Spock kind of voicing his concerns about Charlie to the captain, and the captain kind of saying, "I think you're reaching a little bit." I'm sure that the captain is starting to have his suspicions, but Spock is having them stronger because he's more analytical, more logical, and seeing and evaluating the evidence, and not taking Charlie for granted. It's the same way the captain is in relation to Charlie being a 17-year-old boy. I mean, after all, he's just a kid. He can't possibly have known what was going on. You think you're crazy, Spock. But shortly afterwards, Charlie walks in and has a game of chess with Spock and loses and doesn't take it very well. Ends up melting the white chess pieces that Spock was using. This is after Spock has left, so Spock doesn't see him use his powers at this point. And also, he has another encounter with Yeoman Rand, where he actually, as far as he knows how, clearly states his intentions: "I want you. You make me feel..." The word he uses is hungry, but realistically, he's aroused. He's a young man with his first crush, and Rand is not quite sure how to deal with this. And I got to admit, the way Charlie does it, despite the fact that he's had no training, no kind of exposure with how to handle himself in that kind of a situation, he does come off a little creepy. And so Rand goes to the captain to report, "This is what happened between me and Charlie again. Can you please nip this in the bud?" So the captain finally steps in, and has the talk with Charlie. Lets him know that, look, just I understand you're growing up, and 17 is a difficult age for everyone, and I have to very much agree with the captain on that, and that essentially wanting is not the same as having, and you can't have everything you want. And Charlie and the captain makes very clear that Janice is one of those things that you just can't have, and Charlie is like, well, I'm lost. I don't understand who I am, what I'm supposed to be, how I'm supposed to act, how I'm supposed to behave in this world. Which is certainly understandable given the fact that, as far as anyone knows, he's been alone for 14 years. So I do understand where he's coming from at that point, but also it's also normal for a 17-year-old boy not to know his place, because they're still trying to figure out their life, figure out what they want to do, with their lives, how they want to contribute to society, and what their careers and likes and dislikes and other things are. And the captain explains, look, I understand that that's what you're going through, but you just need to take it slow, give it time, be gentle with with whoever you choose, but also know that it's not just all about you, it's about how they feel as well. And gives Charlie some very sound kind of relationship advice. Afterwards, to try and give Charlie a way to relieve some of the stress, he takes Charlie down to the gym, and teaches him some pretty basic kind of gym type moves, falls and shoulder rolls and a few other things to try and relieve the stress that he's feeling. I got to admit, I find the gym outfit to be a little provocative in some respects. I'm sure there are a number of ladies out there who were quite impressed to see Shatner's shorts or whatever, the tights that he was wearing, and would have enjoyed the show there. So yeah, we'll see. Charlie takes a few times to get used to it, but we'll see how we go. Now Charlie's full powers reveal themselves, and because Kirk is trying to teach Charlie some basic self-defense, and during the course of it, he gets Charlie gets knocked on his butt, and a person who was there was laughing at him, and Charlie, in full view of the captain, makes this person disappear. And Kirk is wondering, what the hell? What happened? And Charlie's like, he's gone. Like, that's not an answer. And then, he shouldn't have laughed at me. He made me do it. A common, and this is one of my biggest gripes with humanity, what I'm about to get into here for a minute. The phrase, I had no choice, or that person made me do it, there was no other option. I hate and I really despise terms like that, because one thing that you always have is the freedom to choose, regardless of whether someone is pointing a gun at your head or not, regardless of whether someone is laughing at you or not, regardless of what your situation is. You always have a choice of how to respond. Sometimes I agree those choices are limited, but you do always have a choice in terms of how you will respond to a given situation. No one can ever make you do anything, regardless of what the consequences are going to be. You always have a choice, and this is something which a lot of people really don't get. And something which, in this particular episode, I think if I was to pick a theme for this episode, it would be that the whole growing up, learning what choices and learning how to make right choices with your life and how to properly respond to it to a situation, something which young men and young women and people throughout the world really do need to kind of work at learning. We have more of Charlie's powers being displayed. the captain has had another meeting with Spock and McCoy now where they're actually discussing essentially their fear of what Charlie is becoming, this super being in the body of a boy, which is causing all kinds of danger in so many ways, because he needs everyone to like him, needs everyone to love him, needs to be able to play in the way he wants to play, and thinks his way or the highway. Charlie comes in shortly during this and admits to blowing up the Antares simply because they didn't like him. They were trying to get rid of him. And Kirk is becoming very, very concerned at this point, and justifiably so. Later on the bridge, not too long after this, Kirk is trying to kind of say, look, buy me some time, steer us away. I need to contact the the colony's governor, where we're trying to take him, to say we're not going to be coming because he's too big of a risk. But none of that happens, and Charlie is growing more and more in his power because he gets Spock to recite poetry, gets the communications panel to short circuit, the helm to not respond, and all these other things are kind of going wrong with the ship. And through it all, Charlie comes onto the bridge thinking, this is all fun, I'm getting to play, woohoo! And Kirk is saying, no, stop it, leave my crew alone, back off, bud. And Spock is right, sooner or later it's going to get to a point where Charlie won't listen to Kirk anymore. He still has a small amount of respect for Kirk, but it's waning. And sooner or later, he's going to see that the Kirk's just getting in the way of the fun that he's trying to have. All right, so the next thing that happens is Charlie goes once again to Janice, his crush. She's in a 90 and was just probably doing a journal entry or something, and he gives her a rose, and she is starting to feel very nervous, very afraid around him, and understandably so. Charlie is kind of saying, I love you, and I want to be with you, and all these kind of things. And Janice managed to surreptitiously warn the captain, or at least alert the captain in terms of what's going on. And the captain, rushes down there to try and stop Charlie from hurting Janice. And Janice, in trying to push Charlie away, slaps him. Again, understandably so, because quite frankly, Charlie is really being creepy. And Charlie also makes her disappear and knocks the captain and Spock on their butts. And Charlie says, the only reason why I'm not making you disappear is because I still need you. The Enterprise is a bit more complicated than the Antares, who wants to control, and it's taking a bit more of my energy to do it, and I still need you to hang around. But that's only going to last for so long, and so it's at this rate. I'm enjoying watching these episodes again because these are ones that I haven't watched in quite some time in some cases, and I'm enjoying kind of finding out how they unfold. And with becoming as strong as Charlie is becoming, with the adolescent angst that goes along with it, it's going to be very interesting to see how they end up being able to stop him from going completely Burko. So Charlie is continuing to flex his power to kind of force the ship and crew to do what he wants, when he wants. Freezing people, turning them old, turning them faceless, and it's just getting too much. And the captain is finally saying, I'm surprised. Once again, the captain has got a hell of a lot more patience than me. And while I do understand, it's because, well, if I do call Charlie on his bluff, that he could very well turn his powers on me, and I understand the potential self-risk there that involved. I still think that, for the safety of ship and crew, that the captain has allowed Charlie's abuse to go on for far too long. He should have, done something a lot earlier than this. But it's going to be interesting to see what the captain decides and or can do to try and stop Charlie from, well, being Charlie. So, the captain's initial plan is, line of thinking is that, since taking over the ship, Charlie hasn't made anyone else disappear, so maybe he's reached his limit. Because the Enterprise is a big ship, and there's a lot to to control there, and it's certainly quite possible that Charlie has overreached himself. So he orders McCoy and Spock to turn on every light switch, every circuit, every power board, everything, to try so that Charlie would be weakened and that he could be controlled and possibly knocked out. The plan initially seems to be working, and just as the captain is about to get the upper hand, another ship comes along. And it turns out to be a ship from Thesis, and this legend of beings there turns not into a legend, but into reality. And Charlie is afraid of them because he, and I can understand to a point why. I mean, who wants to live with their parents forever, essentially? And these are the people who have raised him. He wants to leave the nest, spread his wings and whatnot, and he's turning to the captain and to the crew, "Help me, save me, I don't want to go back with them." And the crew is understandably like hell, because ever since you've come aboard, you've essentially been abusive and destructive, and haven't really looked after us or cared for us. It's always been your way or the highway, and you're the one who has not been nice. The captain, tries to see if there is any chance for Charlie to maybe lose his powers or stay with them, and the Thasian essentially says, "Too late, can't be done." Eventually he would continue to grow in power, and eventually one would have to destroy the other, and so Charlie ends up being forced to go home. To go with them, with the Thasians, which personally I think is the right choice, because it gives Charlie a chance to live with people who are used to his power, know how to control his power, and can help him learn, can teach him how to control it. So that there is, the episode Charlie X. An episode I have to admit I did enjoy, because it does show a lot in relation to the dangers of power with power in the hands of those who don't know how to control it, and the extremes that that of emotion that goes through a teenager's mind and body, and the dangers of not knowing how to how to control that. It also introduces, continues to introduce the dynamic of Spock and McCoy and Kirk, and kind of the left and right hemispheres of the brain, kind of emotion and logic and whatnot, and Kirk kind of being able to use his friends and his and these people to help him manage a situation, something which a dynamic which I love, because you do need both. To be able to, probably reason out a situation. So, just to, kind of end this, podcast, I'm, grateful to those who have listened to my episodes, so far. Once again, you can find me, you can email me on warrior346@yahoo.com, or my Twitter feed, which is at warrior346. I'm open to, my show is available on the Apple Store. If that's where you're listening to it, please feel free to leave me a review. Hopefully it's positive, but I am open to constructive feedback. Until next time, live long and prosper, and Kapla.